So, Drew, you told me recently that you were charged with the task of coming up with group names for your church retreat. And you informed me before that the theme was superhero teams.
Yeah, that's right.
What was the criteria you set for yourself?
So, my criteria that I set for myself when coming up with these names was that they had to... I wasn't going to let myself use a bunch of, derivative versions of the same team. So I wasn't going to have the X-Men and then have Uncanny X-Men and then have the X-Men Blue and then X-Men Gold, X-Men Red.
Yeah.
You know, I wasn't going to do something like that. I was just going to have the X-Men.
Yeah.
So, that goes for all these other teams that had variations. There might be a couple that are, you might consider them exceptions to the rule, or they're kind of iffy, but when we get to those, I can explain my reasoning. But other than that, the other thing that was necessary was that these guys, or the team names that I picked, they had to be an actual series.
Okay. So it couldn't be like some joke team that was created.
Right. Well, it could be, as long as that joke team had its own comic and a
Fair
logo.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
So I have to ask, before we continue with this, how many groups were there in total?
So I had to come up with about, 44. I had to come up with 44 group names because we divided everybody up into groups of I think 4 to 5 people, and every group just had to have their own name, and I wanted to make sure that I had enough, so that I had to pull out some deep cuts, man.
Yeah. Listeners.
We can't all be Avengers.
Yeah. Listeners, so he said 44 teams, so I hope you know how much of a monumental task that is. I want you, as a listener, to try to come up with 44 teams that you know.
Super teams.
Yep. In the Marvel and DC universe.
Yeah.
Heck, I think, did you include Image?
I didn't use Image, I didn't use Valiant.
Okay.
I stuck with Marvel and DC exclusively.
So I would like you, on a personal note, to try that, and heck, you know what? Message us on Instagram or something, and let us know how far you got.
and here's the other thing. I just want to make sure it's on the record. I did not use Wikipedia to do this.
Ooh, yeah. Okay.
I pulled this out from my own knowledge.
Okay.
So you want to go through the list and see alphabetically which teams I used?
Let's go.
We'll talk about what we know about each of these teams.
I see here you have the All-Star Squadron.
Yep.
I don't even really... Weren't they kind of like the JSA before the JSA or something like
basically.
that? Yeah,
They were a World War II superhero team in the DC universe.
Mystery Men, I guess, is the idea behind that.
Yeah, I honestly can't say I've even read an All-Star Squadron
I can't either.
comic, but I just remember it because it was a comic. I think Roy Thomas might have written it, but it was just a name that I remembered, and that's really the only reason why it's here.
I want to say, I think the most notable character... Is that the team with, Uncle Sam and Liberty Bell?
I'm not sure if Uncle Sam was on it.
Human Bomb?
Liberty Bell and Human Bomb were probably on it.
Phantom Girl,
yeah. She's like the one person that I can...
So, okay, we know something. We know something about them.
Yeah.
They're not a complete, unknown to us.
Yeah, exactly.
Alpha Flight. Okay, this is... I'm more comfortable with this.
Yeah, the Canadian superhero team, Marvel Comics.
Let me correct you. They are the premier Canadian super team.
Wait, who are the secondary Canadian super teams then?
They are the premier Canadian super...
Wait, but if they're the premier Canadian superhero team, doesn't that imply that there should be other Canadian superhero teams? Because I thought they were the only one.
They're the only one.
Oh, okay.
And by default, that makes them the premier.
Were you ever a fan of Alpha Flight when you were a kid?
I actually was. I mean, I never... Okay, so, quick story. When I was a kid, my dad used to own, a shop where he would just sell random things that he would find at flea markets and just kind of flip them.
Mm-hmm.
So I remember he bought a couple of boxes of just comics that we would sell for, like a quarter or something like that. And from what I remember, there were a bunch of Alpha Flight comics in there. And I didn't know too much about them other than, what I saw on the cards. But even to this day, I can't really remember those comics. But I just remember seeing it and having an appreciation for it, even though it was John Byrne.
Yeah. There's that one famous John Byrne issue. He was drawing it at the time when he was doing, I think, Fantastic Four as well, and probably even some other comics. So he was churning out a bunch of work on a monthly basis.
Was it the one with Sasquatch?
It was the one where what's the name of that?
Snowbird.
Yeah, Snowbird.
Okay, I remember.
Snowbird. She's got this power where she can transform into a Canadian animal.
Yeah, basically her thing is she's a shapeshifter, but everything she shapeshifts into is like white.
Yeah, a white creature.
Yeah.
So she turned into a polar bear or something and fought somebody in a snowstorm. So a big chunk of that issue was just empty white panels filled with sound effects, word balloons, and thought balloons. So I don't know if that would fly in today's era, but it was something that I was aware of even as a kid because everybody at the store was talking about it, and it was just one of those famous.
Were they talking about it in a good way, or were they like mocking it?
I couldn't tell you for certain because I was a little kid, but so I just knew that people were talking about Alpha Flight. That's like the first comic that people talk about when they talk about Alpha Flight.
So, tangentially speaking, and speaking of Canada, I picked up this one comic. This Bloodshot comic by Jeff Lemire.
Nice.
And I remember thinking, oh yeah, I need that issue. And then I picked it up and at one of the conventions and I put it on my pile. I brought it back to the booth that I was working at. And I remember one of my friends who was there picked it up, expecting to see something, but he opened it and it was just a bunch of black panels. And I haven't read the issue yet because I'm waiting to go through the series as a whole, but from what I could gather, essentially...
That was his homage to the John Byrne...
I don't know if it was a homage to it, but here's what I do know. It was a story about Bloodshot being trapped in his own consciousness. Oh. So it was just... Everything was black, and occasionally there'd be like a streak or something of, digitization or some sort of effect. But it was just pages and pages of like black panels.
Who are your favorite Alpha Flight team members? Because this is a team that we're both pretty familiar with.
Sasquatch. Have to be Sasquatch, dude.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I've always had fondness for Vindicator.
Vindicator's cool. The dude or the chick version?
The chick version.
Yeah. I like the dude version too.
The dude version is cool.
They were both pretty cool. I thought the costume was pretty cool.
Then you've got North Star and Aurora, the super twins.
Yeah. Puck.
Got super speed. Puck, who is he's
a diminutive with... Is that a...
Well, I was gonna say he was a mutant.
Oh.
Not mutant like a freak or something. I mean he was like Homo superior, isn't he? I thought he was a mutant, like a Marvel mutant.
No, from what I remember, his powers came from... He was a dude who was regular height, but because of a demon's curse, he was turned into a diminutive.
Oh, my bad about what I said about him being a mutant. Man.
That's what I remember. They might have retconned that or changed that.
Yeah, Sasquatch was a cool guy.
Mara or not Mara? What's her name?
Marina.
Marina. There we go.
I think she was on the team for a while. And there was the shaman dude. What's the name of that shaman?
It might have actually just been Shaman.
Oh.
Right?
Okay.
Does that sound familiar?
Or was it Talisman?
Talisman, there we go.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, I don't really remember too much about the series, but I do... I will say I like their primary villain. I don't even know if he's their primary villain, but he's like one of their big... But Master of the World.
Oh, that's a pretty good name for a villain.
Yeah, he's got a cool design. He's got that cool-looking helmet with the huge thing. I thought he was kind of cool. I remember Kurt Busiek brought him into his Avengers run.
That's right.
I was like, okay, he gave him some love. Awesome,
man.
I'm into that.
Yeah, Alpha Flight was a comic that I read when I was a kid. I never collected it, but I would read issues of it here and there.
Yeah.
I can't say it would ever became any of my favorite comics or anything.
Yeah.
But it's a comic that I think about it and I smile, you know?
That's fair. I'm the same way. The Avengers.
Yup.
How could you...
That
who don't know the Avengers, right?
You've got to know who the Avengers are.
Yeah.
Going in alphabetical order here. So next up, we got the
Birds of Prey.
Yup.
So I think they're pretty well known. They've got a movie coming out. I mean, not that that's the standard for what makes you well known or whatever, but you know, at this point, it feels like okay, you're still kind of hitting your stride. You're hitting the team names that are pretty well known.
Yeah,
you know,
it's just a shame that I think the movie that's coming out, you know, it's a Harley Quinn movie basically.
Yeah,
that's got nothing to do with the Birds of Prey.
Yeah, the Birds of Prey are
the real Birds of Prey are
Black Canary,
and
Huntress,
Oracle, and Huntress.
Oracle. Yeah.
Like that's the three of them. That's the lineup because Oracle is also Barbara Gordon, who used to be Batgirl until she got shot in the spine and lost the use of her legs because of the Joker. So she ends up becoming this cybersecurity mastermind.
She's like a hacker.
Yeah. She has eyes in the sky. She can hack into satellites and government things and whatnot.
And she sends these two other heroes on missions.
It started off with just Black Canary being her muscle or being her feet on the ground. And then eventually the Huntress came into play and joined the team. And then even after that, during Gail Simone's run, they ended up getting a few more other characters. Yeah. Like one of the... I think like a granddaughter of one of the Blackhawks was there. Oh. So she was like the pilot.
Okay. That's pretty cool. That's a nice addition.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
I want to say Barda was on the team at some point. Big Barda.
But Blackhawk makes, or like if she's one of the daughters of the Blackhawks, that makes sense. It's Birds of Prey, right?
Yeah.
That's a nice little touch.
Yeah.
I will props to Gail Simone on that one.
Yeah. Actually, if you read the comic series from the beginning, because Chuck Dixon was the first writer, I don't think he ever actually called the duo the Birds of Prey. He never called Black Canary and Oracle the Birds of Prey.
Oh, okay.
And I don't think they referred to themselves as that until like later on when Gail Simone, after she's got a couple of arcs under her belt. She
formalizes it.
I don't even know if she really formalized it, but when she brought in Lady Blackhawk, I think Lady Blackhawk was the one who... It might have been like a throwaway line or, just a wink to the reader. She's like, we're the Birds of Prey,
Yeah. I like that.
Yeah. That was a fun series, and I'm not looking forward to the movie.
That's fair. The movie looks like trash.
Oh, next up is the Blood Syndicate.
I'm going to have to defer to you on this one. I don't really... Well... it's a Milestone comic.
Yeah, Milestone, which is owned by DC.
Yeah.
They weren't originally in the DC universe proper, but if you have ever heard of the character Static, known from the TV show cartoon Static Shock, this was part of that universe. Yeah. So essentially back in the early 90s, a group of creators decided to create their own superhero universe. Yeah. And they wanted to make something that was more reflective of the world where, people, it was inclusive of people of different ethnicities and whatnot. So the Blood Syndicate was a team of superheroes comprised of a bunch of characters from different walks of life. Yeah. It's another one of those series that I never really read, or if I have read, it's just a random issue that I found in the quarter bin, years after the fact. Mm-hmm. But I always liked the name, and I will say that at the time when I was coming up with my names for this activity, I was like, Blood Syndicate, that might be a little bit violent for a church thing. and I don't know why I ended up using it. I didn't use Suicide Squad because it had the word suicide in it, but for some reason I thought Blood Syndicate was okay.
Okay.
So sometimes I don't even know how my logic works.
Your logic works the way that it works, and it takes you on your journey. So nothing wrong with that. Challengers of the Unknown. Okay. it's kind of, it feels like it's DC's response to the Fantastic Four, basically.
Well, I thought they existed before the Fantastic Four.
Did they? Okay.
Let me look that up real quick.
Okay.
So buy me some time and talk while I look it up on Wikipedia.
Okay, so I haven't read any comics with them, but the concept of the team was always one that I bought into, which was essentially a team of 4 scientists who...
They predate the Fantastic
Oh, they
Four.
do? Okay, my
Yeah.
mistake.
And they were created by Jack Kirby.
Oh, okay. So
were
they're
made
just...
in 57.
Awesome. So they're just adventurers, science heroes
Mm-hmm.
that go on adventures kind of reminiscent of Journey to the Center of the Earth,
Yeah.
like those old movies, 50,000 Leagues Under the Sea or something like that, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Well, no, maybe not that, but Journey to the Center.
I think something like that
Yeah.
would be comparable.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just that sort of idea, that era's idea of science fiction or science fantasy adventure.
Yeah.
The other thing that I liked about Challengers of the Unknown was they had a tagline. I don't know if this was always their motto, but I remember there was an early 90s miniseries by Jeff Loeb and Tim Sale.
Uh-huh.
And it's probably Jeff Loeb's best comic. But the tagline I remember from that comic was, "There were 4 men living on borrowed time.
Ooh.
Time's up."
Ooh.
Yeah.
That's pretty dramatic.
Yeah,
Yeah.
That was a good miniseries. If you want to read the Challengers of the Unknown comic, look for the Jeff Loeb and Tim Sale comic.
I'll give that a try someday.
Yeah. I mean, the Jack Kirby stuff is pretty classic, too, because of the artwork.
Oh, yeah,
and you
for
get
sure.
to see how they... It is kind of like a proto-Fantastic Four in a way.
Okay. The Champions.
Yeah.
Okay.
And this is the more recent modern logo, too.
Yeah.
So it's from that era. I think Mark Waid wrote it. Was that Mark Waid?
Yeah, it was Mark Waid.
Yeah. It had the... so this incarnation of the team... You'll find that a lot of the teams that we talk about have multiple incarnations over the years.
Yeah.
But this particular incarnation of the Champions was
It was made up of...
teenage heroes. So you had there was a time displaced Cyclops so he was a teenager.
It was characters from a bunch of... What's it called?
They all had their own comics.
They all had their own comics. They were from different walks of the Marvel Universe.
Yeah.
And they were all put on this team to highlight kind of the idea that this is the new generation of Marvel.
Exactly. You had Teen Nova, his name's not Teen Nova. His name's just Nova.
He's just Nova.
But he was the teenage incarnation of that character.
He had Miss Marvel.
Kamala Khan.
He had Vision's daughter.
Uh-huh.
I don't even...
Vision. You had Amadeus Cho.
Miles Morales.
And Miles Morales, Spider-Man. Yeah. That was a fun team.
Yeah. I don't know what the original premise of the Champions was, like the original Champions.
Yeah.
Like, it always felt like... It was kind of like the Defenders in the sense that, we have power hitters that are equivalent to the Avengers or something like that.
Yeah.
It was always... That's how I always kind of interpreted
the old school Champions. Who did they have? They had like Hercules,
I think they had Hercules.
Right? Hercules. Yeah. Was that the team where Iceman and Angel were on it too?
I have no idea.
I want to say... Sometimes I get them confused with the Defenders. But yeah, I think it was Iceman and Angel and Black Widow.
Weren't they on the Defenders?
Oh, they were? Oh, yeah, you're right, dude. I do get them confused.
Yeah. Because I remember there was that Angel and Iceman was on the Defenders, sort of.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. So
anyway,
I don't even know. Yeah.
See, I know the teams, but I don't remember all the rosters.
Yeah.
I have to consult Wikipedia for the rosters. But yeah, anyway, the modern incarnation of the Champions was the teenagers.
Darkhold Redeemers. Wow. I think that's our first decently deep cut.
You didn't think Blood Syndicate was a deep cut?
Yeah, okay. Blood Syndicate's definitely more of a deep cut than Darkhold Redeemers, if not on the same tier.
Mm-hmm.
From what I remember, this was a 90s sort of... In the 90s era, Marvel expanded their
supernatural
horror part of the Marvel universe.
They wanted to do their Sandman.
Is that what that was? Is that what the point of that was?
I assume they were trying to imitate Vertigo in some way.
Okay, they did not, because they had like this weird looking version of Doctor Strange.
You're thinking of Midnight Suns.
Okay. Well, no, I was just talking about that line in general.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So you had that. You had Morbius and
Ghost
Rider,
Johnny Blaze,
and then you had something like the Darkhold Redeemers. And was this the team with Blade?
I don't think Blade was actually on this team. I think they had a guy named Hannibal. I want to say they had a guy named Hannibal who was either a half vampire or a vampire. But it was the team that was... They were a group of people where they were trying to... Actually, don't even quote me on the vampire dude. I know they were a team of basically normal people who...
Wasn't there a guy with like a laser gun?
Well, normal people with laser guns. But they were on a mission to... Because there was this book of doom or something, or some sort of satanic book called the Darkhold, the Book of the Darkhold, that was supposed to prophesy either the end of the world or just bad stuff happening. So they were out to stop all of those things from happening. Again, it was a comic that I think I tried to read it when I was a kid, and even then it didn't capture my attention, so I never really bothered. But the name always stuck with me. I thought it was a cool name.
Okay. You gave them some love.
Yeah.
It's probably more than they've received in the past decade.
2 decades.
2 decades.
Probably.
The Defenders, all right.
That's a team we know.
Yeah, we mentioned them earlier. I always took them as the bad boys version of the Avengers, you know?
They did have a war against the Avengers.
Yeah, but they were always fighting each other too.
Yeah.
And they were just a team of powerhouses. It was Silver Surfer, Namor, Hulk,
and Doctor
Strange, and they had some other characters.
That was the original.
Yeah, that was the original lineup. Yeah.
Defenders, yeah.
But
over the years, they've had
Hellcat,
a bunch of other people too.
Yeah. Okay.
That was a fun concept.
Before we move forward, do you consider the Defenders the same as the Secret Defenders?
No, they're different, but the Secret Defenders were too lame. I didn't include them.
Okay.
I would say the Secret Defenders were a derivative of the Defenders, so I didn't want to...
That's fair. That's fair.
Number 1, it was a lame comic.
Yeah.
Number 2, it was a derivative title, so I didn't want to include it in this exercise.
Fair enough. Doom Patrol.
Yeah.
Okay.
You like how I used the Vertigo logo?
I do. That's a cool looking logo. Yeah, this is a comic that me and Drew both know pretty well. We've got a lot of affection for them. They were a team that existed...
DC Comics.
Yeah, in DC Comics. They're an older team. They're similar to the X-Men or something like that. Just a team of misfits and freaks and outcasts.
Yeah.
But
they were created around the same time as the X-Men. When X-Men number 1, I think X-Men number 1 came out first back in the 60s, and then maybe a few months after that Doom Patrol came out, or maybe it was the other way around. You'll have to look it up, but they were really similar down to the fact that both of them were led by a guy in a wheelchair. You know?
Yeah.
It's what a coincidence that was.
But the run that it definitely gives we have the most affection for is the one that was done in the 80s by Grant Morrison.
Yep.
And it was just a weird experience, but awesome too.
Yeah. Grant Morrison, Richard Case, and some other artists. But it was a team where you had really bizarre characters that had really strange powers.
Yeah.
Like
there was
the most normal character was probably Robot Man.
Yeah.
He was just a normal person who got into this horrible car accident, and his brain was put inside a robot body.
Yeah.
So
straightforward.
That's straightforward. And then you had a character like Crazy Jane, who was a combination of... She had multiple personality syndrome, a couple hundred personalities within her.
And each personality had a superpower of its own.
Yeah. That's pretty bizarre.
Yeah. Negative Man was always an interesting one because I didn't know how to explain his power. As my understanding was, he could send like an energy projection, negative projection of himself that would leave his body, and his physical body would just kind of crumple like a doll.
Yeah.
And this energy form of him would fly around, and it could like mess people. I don't know if it could like fire bolts or anything.
I think it could, but I don't quote me on that.
Okay, but I feel like most of the time he was just like flying through people and just messing them up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then there was Danny the Street. Danny the Street was a literal street, a transvestite street, by the way. And the characters kind of used him to, teleport around the world.
Yeah.
I don't know how streets can do that, but yeah, that was that's the Doom Patrol.
That was their mode of transportation.
Yeah. I have a good feeling that we'll be talking about the Doom Patrol at some point on our podcast.
Same here. Fantastic Four. Self-explanatory, man.
Yeah, you gotta love the Fantastic Four.
They're the first family of comics.
Mm-hmm.
Forceworks.
You couldn't even say their name without laughing.
Yeah. They're derivative, but I feel like they're enough of a joke that you should mention them just for the humor.
This was a 90s Marvel comic.
It was a team of not even Ursats. It was
a team of former Avengers that they had to be more extreme.
Yeah, it was kind of Marvel's response to the extreme craze of the 90s of having extreme teams. So they were like, let's just take a bunch of secondary Avengers and maybe one or two like top tier Avengers, put them on this team, give them an edge, and we'll see if we can compete with, Youngblood or one of the extreme teams that are out. Well,
DC
it makes
had Extreme Justice.
Yeah, I was gonna say if it makes you feel any better, Forceworks and Extreme Justice are both equally as lame.
Yeah, but Forceworks had Iron Man.
Yeah,
they had Iron Man,
War Machine, right?
Spider-Woman.
Yeah.
Was Wonder Man on the team? I don't remember if Wonder Man was on. They had this alien warlord named Century.
Yeah.
They had who else did they have?
Did they have Hawkeye?
I don't remember if Hawkeye was on it. Scarlet Witch was on the team.
Yeah.
So there are recognizable names on the team, but it just wasn't a good comic.
Yeah.
But at least the name made you laugh.
See? Value. I don't know this one. The Forever People?
Oh,
is that a Kirby thing?
That's a Jack Kirby comic, dude. It's part of the Fourth World. It was about these teenage new gods who went on adventures and they could basically combine their powers or something, and they created when their powers combined, they created
Captain Planet.
No, not Captain Planet. The Infinity Man.
Oh, okay.
The Infinity Man.
Okay.
Way cooler than Captain Planet.
Okay.
This comic predates Captain Planet. Captain
Nice.
Planet is a ripoff of the Forever People.
Okay.
Yeah, this is some classic Kirby stuff, man. You definitely got to check out some Forever People.
I will at some point. That sounds interesting.
They had a really awesome car. Like, imagine the Fantastic Car, but like the volume turned to 12. They had a car like that.
Cool.
The Future
Foundation.
Yep.
So this was a team that Jonathan Hickman created in his run of the Fantastic Four.
Mm-hmm.
We've mentioned it before that Jonathan Hickman sort of has a graphic design background, so it's kind of a cool take on the Fantastic Four.
Yeah.
It was a think tank, basically, of all the genius kids or various genius kids in the Marvel Universe coming together to solve the world's problems.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it started up when during Jonathan Hickman's run, there was a story where Johnny Storm, the Human Torch, died, and the team basically kind of reinvented itself. So they got Spider-Man to take his place, and they got all these. It became a place where, like you said, the genius kids of the Marvel Universe could learn and grow and apply their knowledge and intellect.
Yep. Generation X. This was was it the 90s?
90s Marvel comic.
It was a 90s Marvel comic. It was kind of the I felt like it was
It was-
a predecessor to X-Force.
I think you mean the successor.
Successor, sorry
Successor
about
to the New Mutants.
New Mutants.
Yeah.
Well, I always thought X-Force was the successor to New Mutants.
Well, X-Force was the direct successor in the sense that the cast
Moved on to
the
become.
series evolved to become X-Force, but
Yeah.
Generation X is the spiritual successor to the New Mutants because Generation X, like the New Mutants, was a team about the teenage mutants.
Yeah.
For some reason, I was about to say
Ninja Turtles.
It just rolls off the tongue, dude. But no, they were teenage mutants in Xavier's school who were training to be the next generation of X-Men.
Yeah. It was the Generation X version of the New Mutants.
Yeah, so you had Emma Frost,
Yeah.
the White Queen, and Banshee as the teachers of the group, and then the.
I want to say this was the first time that Emma Frost had been
a good guy.
Sort of a good guy. Yeah. Here's a question. Do you think that they've trotted out a version of teenage superheroes for every generation?
Mm-hmm.
So, what would you say? Was there a millennials version of New Mutants?
What do you mean, a millennial version of New Mutants?
Because I feel like, okay, granted, Generation X was
90s?
like my generation, like
our generation,
like we were called Gen Xers, right?
Oh, I see.
So so you had like boomers, like baby boomers, and then you had Generation Xers, and then you had like millennials, right?
Yeah, there's a team for that.
Which, like, can you name it?
Champions.
No, I mean for the X franchise.
Oh,
so if the New Mutants reinvented themselves with every generation or if the X books produced a teen.
Okay, if you're talking strictly about X books, I'm not sure. I can't. I mean, they obviously continually do teenage X-Men stories, but I don't know if there's anything.
Because they had like young X-Men, but I don't really feel like that.
Yeah.
Really was like New Mutants or something like that.
I just said champions earlier because millennials feel pretty entitled and they feel like they're champions all the time just for participating, you know?
There we go.
But yeah, this Generation X had some cool characters. I mean, they had Jubilee. She's Asian. At least we can claim her.
I liked Skin.
I like Chamber.
Chamber's cool.
Had a cool look. The artwork in the early Generation X comics was excellent.
Yeah. M-Plate was cool. Is that her name? Or was the elephant dude M-Plate?
The elephant dude was M-Plate. You're thinking of Monet, I think.
Okay.
M.
Was she the one that was like a weird crustacean like armor thing?
No.
She had like sharp claws and...
Are you thinking of Marrow?
No.
Okay, because Marrow wasn't in Generation X. Are you thinking of Skin?
No.
Or Skin was a dude. Not Skin. Who was that? Husk. Are you thinking of Husk? She could change her skin.
No. Yeah, buy me some time. Let me look it up.
How much time should I buy you? I don't have my wallet on me right now. Don't know really how much I can afford.
Marvel.
The Generation X comics had some pretty fun art, though. I think I could. If those are the comics where if I found them in a quarter bin, I would buy them just to look at the pictures, man.
Yeah.
Some of those characters they're still being used.
Penance.
Oh wow, I really don't remember her at all. She wasn't
Penance.
She wasn't the one that stood out to me.
The Chris Bachalo design for her was pretty cool.
Yeah, Chris Bachalo does some great stuff. I still have a lot of love for Chamber. Chamber is one of my probably. I don't know if he's in my top 10 X-Men characters, but he's probably in my top 20.
Here, check this out. This was his design for her.
Okay, yeah, she does look cool.
Yeah, she...
Yeah, now I'm just looking at pictures on your phone while we're recording a podcast.
Yeah, sorry. So there's Penance, and I will say I like the fact that Banshee was the leader of the team. He's one of the X-Men that I have fondness for, so...
Oh, okay. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
The Irish stereotype.
I mean, he wasn't a drunk or anything.
Oh, that's true. I guess it was just the way that Claremont always used to write his stereotypical dialogue.
Yeah. All right. The Green Lantern Corps. Okay, that's still in the top tier of DC teams. It's just space cops with Green Lantern rings.
Like Ryan Reynolds.
Yeah. Yeah.
I just heard that Greg Berlanti is trying to do another Green Lantern, but I think instead of a movie, he's trying to do
a show, like a streaming thing.
I think it's going to be on the HBO Max.
I remember hearing something like. Yeah. I remember hearing it and then just kind of putting it off because it wasn't something that I was like super into. Yeah.
But this guy Greg Berlanti, he's the. In case you guys don't know, he's the guy behind the producer, maybe even like co-creator, creative driving force of a lot of the DC shows like Flash and Green Arrow and whatnot.
Yeah.
He also wrote the Green Lantern movie starring Ryan Reynolds. I remember way back in the early 2000s, he had this show. It wasn't a superhero show, but it was like a teen/family drama on the WB called Everwood.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I knew it had a tree or wood in it or something.
Yeah. He made that show, and the main character, I remember,
he was into comics.
He was a teenage kid who was into comics, and you'd always see these scenes of him lying in bed reading a Green Lantern comic.
Nice.
So I guess Greg Berlanti's just really a big Green Lantern fan.
Okay.
Yeah.
So he's got a little bit of cred then. I'll give him that. Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yep. That's pretty well known.
Yeah.
You can
self-evident.
Watch a movie if you haven't heard of them.
Infinity Inc. It's familiar to me, but just the name. I don't really know anything else about them.
Yeah, the Infinity Inc. were a team from the 80s. They were meant to be the children, or this either the children or they were the successor to legacy heroes from the Golden Age. So like their parents were all the heroes from the JSA or the All-Star Squadron or something.
Okay.
So their parents were famous heroes who fought in World War II or something, and these were their lazy, good-for-nothing children.
Were they actually lazy, good-for-nothing?
No, actually, I don't know.
Okay.
I think I did have some Infinity Inc. comics
really?
when I was a kid, but I wasn't into them, man.
I remember you got some of the like Infinity Inc. later on. I want to say Peter Milligan wrote it.
Did a series. It wasn't the same concept though.
Okay.
I did like the Peter Milligan comic because I'm a Milligan fan, but this Infinity Inc. was from an era that it was like right before I was really into comics. So by the time I found issues of it, it had been like several years since it was an ongoing series. So I just would find back issues of it here and there.
But even then,
it wasn't very good.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was. I think it was a Roy Thomas joint.
Okay.
I believe. I want to say, Todd McFarlane drew some of these issues back, early in his career. So that's probably what it's most notable for. And in case you guys can't see, but Albert was rolling his eyes pretty heavy when I made mention of Todd McFarlane.
What else we got? Inhumans.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's a pretty great title, man.
Yeah. I know you don't like or referring to them based on like what's going on in television or whatever, but they did have a short-lived show that got canceled because it was just bad.
Yeah.
But I heard that they might be getting a second chance.
Really? Oh.
This might be just hearsay, so don't take me on it.
Disney Plus?
I don't even remember, but never. You know what? Never mind. But
we did talk about an Inhumans comic on our top 25, though.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we have a lot of affection for the legacy of this title.
It's another Kirby creation.
Mm-hmm.
The Invaders. It's World War II Marvel heroes.
Marvel's All-Star Squadron.
Yeah. Basically.
Yeah, World War II Marvel heroes. So you got Captain America.
2 Human Torches.
Yeah. The original Human Torch. Human Torch. And then his young ward,
Toro. Namor, I think, was on the team.
Yeah.
I don't know who that flaming skull-headed dude was, but...
Oh, dude, I forgot his name now.
Wasn't Union Jack on the team? Or
Union Jack was on it.
Yeah.
I believe Spitfire
was on it.
She was a super speedster. It was the Flaming Head guy. Was his name just Flaming Skull, or am I thinking about someone else?
Might have been Flaming Skull. I
Okay.
don't know. I don't think I really knew too much about him.
Yeah, with the Invaders, you know, you gotta respect superheroes that beat up Nazis.
Yeah, gots to.
Next up, we got the JLA.
JLA.
Yep, one of the most notable names that you can come up with when it comes to superhero names.
If I was part of a group and we got the JLA, I'd feel no shame about that. I'd feel
totally,
good.
man. I'd be jazzed to get the JLA. You know, that sure beats Darkhold Redeemers.
Oh yeah, by far.
Yeah. The Justice League of America. It doesn't get bigger than that unless you're the Avengers, because they have more movies.
Yeah, well, yeah. I don't even think the Justice League did have a movie.
Did they?
Yeah. See? It was so bad we forgot.
Oh, yeah, you're right. That's right. I forgot it. Yeah. That was a really bad movie.
It was a terrible movie.
Yeah. But we're talking about the JLA.
Yeah.
The logo that we used.
It was the Grant Morrison logo.
Yeah, the Grant Morrison era.
Perfect.
Yeah, that's a great era of superhero comics.
Now we have the JSA.
Yep, the Justice Society of America. They were the heroes that fought in
World War II
as well. Yeah. They were a legacy team for DC.
Yeah.
The logo that I'm using here is the one where that came out in the late 90s, early 2000s. So this was when the team was comprised of not only some of the original characters. So the original Justice Society fought in World War II. Obviously, they would be really old by the time, by the time it was like the year 2000. So part of the story was, again, comics, but the core members of the original Justice Society were trapped in a place called Limbo.
Yeah.
So they didn't age, and they were just fighting this endless battle, and then
against
somehow,
Nazis.
Yeah, and then they were finally pulled out of it and returned to the modern time.
Yeah.
So you had like the original Green Lantern, you had Wildcat,
Hourman,
Sandman, the original Flash.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was a good comic too, man.
Dr. Midnight.
Dr. Midnight was on it. Stargirl.
Yeah.
Or Stars and Stripe.
This was Geoff Johns.
James Robinson helped launch it.
James Robinson. Who's the...
David Goyer.
David Goyer.
Yeah.
Probably the best thing
that Geoff Johns.
He did.
Yeah. Definitely the best thing David Goyer's ever done.
The Legion of Superheroes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. This wasn't ever a team that I was a huge fan of, but I guess I respected the idea behind it. It's a team that it's a story that takes place way, way in the future, in the distant future of mankind, where we have a utopian society, and the peacekeepers of that society are...
It's the 31st century, right?
I think so.
I believe it's the 31st century DC universe.
Yeah. And it's an army of just superpowered teenagers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They all have these special flight rings that have the emblem of the team.
Yeah.
It's the ring that has an L, and it lets them all fly.
Yeah. I think when it came out way back in the day, it was... My like, image of it is always as something kind of saccharine, because it was like the Superboy, and they were always kind of jokey.
They took Superboy from his youth, or they took Superman from his youth and brought him to the future so he could be a part of their team.
Yeah.
So I guess he's always been associated with the Legion. Superboy has. And then the other core members would be like Saturn Girl and Cosmic Boy and Lightning Lad.
Yeah.
Like those are probably the Legion's big three.
Yeah.
And then you had a whole bunch of weird characters.
Yeah.
Like they had so many characters, like characters that probably just appear in a couple panels here and there.
Yeah. But on that level, it was still kind of fun. I mean, it was goofy, but it was fun.
Yeah. Conceptually, it's pretty goofy. On a practical level, I can't really say there were any runs or stories I really enjoyed reading.
There is that one story that gets a lot of praise, the Great Darkness Saga, and I think a lot of people kind of put it up there with, milestone comics that came out of DC, but it's not something that I have too much interest in reading.
I read that. I borrowed it from the library. That one has not withstood the test of time.
It will not. Let that speak for itself.
I don't think it had anything racist in it, but it just I didn't think it was worth reading.
Yeah. Metal Men. It's another DC comic that I associate with more.
It's goofy Silver Age stuff.
Yeah, it's goofy Silver Age. Exactly. That's the perfect way to put it. It's just a team of robot men or people that where each robot is a particular kind of metal.
Yeah.
And that's their name. And actually, that's all I really have to say about it.
Yeah, they were created by Dr. Will Magnus, right?
Yeah.
I think that was his name. So he was like the leader, and then they had all of their names were just based on the metal they were.
Yeah.
So you had tin,
gold, iron,
platinum.
Was lead one of them?
I think lead was one of them.
Yeah.
I think wait, was platinum the girl robot? She
might have been.
Yeah. I remember she was in love with Will Magnus. So I always thought that was weird. You know, it's like he created a robot to fall in love with him. That's a bit creepy.
Yeah. Kids, don't do that.
Next up, we got the Midnight Suns.
Maybe that was the team I was thinking of earlier. That's the one with Blade, right?
Yeah, Blade was on the Midnight Suns.
Okay.
Blade, Johnny Blaze, and the Danny Ketch Ghost Rider, Doctor Strange, Morbius. Okay. I think the Darkhold Redeemers were part of it as well.
Yeah, it was just all of their mystical horror characters all in one place.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
New Avengers. So this one is the logo I used for this one was the Jonathan Hickman logo from his run. We talked about it when we were doing our top 25.
Yeah.
I think earlier I said that I wasn't gonna use any derivatives and whatnot. So I guess New Avengers you might say that's a derivative title, but on the other hand, the fact that the comic itself was so different from the actual Avengers series, I feel like it's good enough to stand on its own. You know, like this incarnation of the New Avengers was the Illuminati.
Yeah.
You know, it started off. Cap started off on it. He wasn't on it very long, but you know, it's primarily Iron Man, Black Panther, Doctor Strange, Black Bolt.
And I'll be honest,
Namor.
If I was developing a list of team names to put out there, I like this comic enough where I'd cheat just a little, just because I want them.
Yeah. And this is a great logo, man.
Yeah.
It's a great logo. Yeah. Next up, we got the New Mutants.
Yeah.
So we kind of mentioned them a little bit earlier when we were talking about
teenage superheroes.
Yeah, and Generation X and whatnot.
I guess this was the generation prior to us. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say they were the baby boomers or anything, but
they were made in the 80s. This comic came out in the 80s.
Oh, so I guess it might have been young Gen Xers.
Yeah.
Like on the older end of our generational spectrum.
Chris Claremont came up with them.
Yeah.
Back at the the peak of his X-Men.
The team gets a lot of love. Like I think there's a lot of fondness for.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of the original team lineup had some pretty memorable and long-lasting characters. Like
I like Sunspot.
He
might have been my favorite. Cannonball.
Both of those guys were in Hickman's Avengers.
Yeah.
You had what's her name? Wolfsbane.
Yeah.
Magma, Magic with a K.
Warlock.
Cypher.
I always thought he was actually kind of cool. Like I liked that his power was that he understood languages.
Yeah. That's a pretty unique power.
It's unique, and it's something that's conceivable.
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah, that would be a useful power.
Yeah.
You know when we were talking earlier about what superpower do you wish that the entire world could have?
Is that what you wish?
That would actually be a good answer. Like everybody has the power of understanding language.
That would.
Yeah.
That would actually probably make things a lot easier.
Yeah. That would be better than having super empathy.
Yeah.
Or like, what if the entire world had super genius intellect?
I feel like there's less potential to do harm with that.
Yeah.
Unless everybody hated each other. What's the next team? We have the New Warriors here. This was a team that we grew up with.
Marvel Comics.
Yeah. It was... I'm not going to say that they were the next generation of the Avengers, because they were their own heroes.
Yeah.
It wasn't like they were, Cap Jr. and Iron Man Jr. or whatever. They were all their own heroes, so I did like that about them.
Yeah,
And
they were a team of teenagers / people in their like early 20s, I assume.
Yeah.
And they were just a superhero team. Everybody was comprised from a different walk of life. I think did they have a mutant on the team?
Was it Marvel Boy?
Yeah, that's right. Marvel Boy and Firestar were both mutants. Night Thrasher was the team leader. He was just a normal guy. He was kind of like Batman / Tony Stark.
Speedball. He was my favorite dude.
Oh yeah, Speedball.
I got so much love for Speedball.
Co-creation. He had the power to throw himself around like a kinetic ball of force.
He was basically just a ball, and whatever kinetic force you put into him, you would receive back.
Yeah.
So you couldn't hit the guy because you'd just go flying in the opposite direction.
What if the entire world had that power?
That would be chaotic.
Yeah, the New Warriors was a fun comic. That's a comic from the 90s that I still have fun with. So, the other day I was looking in the quarter bin and I found an issue, the one where they fight Terax, the
I have that one. I have that one. I got mad love for that series.
That's a fun comic, you know? It's just fun.
The Nova Corps.
Yeah, this one was a treat because this logo isn't actually from
their
a
logo.
Comic book.
Yeah.
It was just I just did a Google image search for this one because I think at this point I was just really running out of steam.
Okay.
And again, I did not use Wikipedia. I was using my own knowledge.
Okay.
So I just thought
you wanted to test yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. And they're the Green Lantern Corps, but with Novas.
Yeah, for Marvel.
Yeah.
So they were kind of in the movies. Well, no, they weren't.
They were in the movies. They were in the Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah. That was the army of police cops led by Glenn Close.
They were a lot less powerful than the Green Lantern Corps, though.
Yeah, in the movie they weren't very powerful.
Yeah.
In the comics they're pretty freaking strong.
The Omega Men.
Yeah, DC comic.
I don't really know anything about them.
I just know that they're a bunch of aliens that are kind of like, they're either renegades or rebels or terrorists, depending on your point of view. But they're a team of aliens in some other sector of space. I remember they had a comic series in the 80s. I didn't really read that. This logo, though, is from the more recent series that
the Tom King one.
Tom King did, yeah. And I actually just found that comic for the trade paperback for cheap a few months ago. I haven't gotten around to reading it, but it's definitely something I'm looking forward to.
Nice.
Next up, The
Outsiders.
Yep.
I see that you used the Judd Winnick logo.
Heck yeah, dude. Yeah. I did that for you, just in preparation for this moment.
So the Outsiders were a team that was made up by... a team put together by Batman, and I'm not even sure...
The original Outsiders were put together by Batman. Okay. So the original team was made in the 80s. It was originally called Batman and the Outsiders because he either got kicked out of the Justice League or he thought the Justice League wasn't doing a good enough job, so he wanted
to make his own team of heroes.
So
and
he ended up recruiting some lesser-known heroes like Black Lightning, Katana...
Metamorpho. Yeah.
And then some new characters like Geoforce and Halo.
Yeah.
But the logo that I ended up using was from the early 2000s, and this was a different incarnation of the team. Instead of being led by Batman, they were led by Dick Grayson, also known as Nightwing.
From what I remember, it felt like it was their attempt to capitalize on something like the Authority.
Yeah, exactly.
Because the whole thing was... oh yeah, these heroes, they take the initiative. They go after the bad guys where they live. They go get them first. And, it was this really proactive, getting tough sort of stance on supervillainy, right?
Yeah.
Like, we're going to find out where you live. We're going to break into your house. And then we're going to,
we're going to arrest you before you commit the crime.
Yeah, exactly.
Because we just know you're going to commit a crime.
Yeah, it was stuff like that.
Yeah.
That was the main thing that I remembered from that blurb.
It was supposed to be edgy and gritty.
Was it?
It was supposed to.
Oh.
It was supposed to be. Yeah. I still think that the team roster had some fun characters. I mean, you had Nightwing, who was the original Robin. And
Indigo.
Then, you had her. You had a guy named Shift, who was essentially like a offshoot of Metamorpho. You had an Asian American character named Grace.
Okay.
She was the super strength muscle of the team. Arsenal, the former Green Arrow sidekick. Jade, who was the daughter of the original Green Lantern.
Yeah.
Yeah, there were some fun characters in it, and I really liked. They did this 2-parter, and it was this. Mind you, this was in like 2003, 2004. They had the Outsiders do a crossover with John Walsh from America's Most Wanted. So the comic book had on the cover, it had John Walsh, like a photo of him.
Yeah.
And I always thought that was pretty funny.
It's bizarre.
It's a bizarre team up.
Yeah.
It's a bizarre
crossover.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it just goes to show that Judd Winnick, he was into
America's Most Wanted?
Yeah, I guess so.
Okay. 7 Soldiers of Victory. So what I see here is the more recent incarnation, and recent's pretty generous because it's probably like 10 years old now.
Maybe even closer to 14, 15.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know anything about the original 7 Soldiers of Victory team, but I know that Grant Morrison redid the series as with 4 characters as 4 miniseries that came together.
7 characters, 7 miniseries.
Oh yeah, 7 characters that all came together to tell this large, sprawling story, right?
Yeah, the 7 Soldiers of Victory that Grant Morrison did for DC Comics. He told a story where the world was basically under a grave, perilous threat from an alien invasion. They're either aliens or from some alternate dimension.
Yeah.
And these alien invaders they knew about this prophecy that said that the only people that could defeat them or stop their invasion was a team of 7. So they systematically the story starts with them systematically going through the DC universe and dismantling all these teams of 7. So they beat the Justice League. They beat up, all these other teams that had 7 members. And then what ends up happening is the 7 Soldiers of Victory are 7 characters. It was Mr. Miracle, Clarion the Witch Boy, the Guardian,
Dr. Frankenstein or Doc Frankenstein?
Just Frankenstein.
Just Frankenstein.
Zatanna, Bulleteer, and Shining Knight.
Yeah.
So these are all other than Zatanna, most people don't know who those people are. And the hook of it was that each of these characters, all 7 of them, they're not working as a team. They don't even know about the other people usually. So
they're all doing their own thing.
They're all doing their own thing, but they're all somehow working together without knowing it.
Yeah.
And that's the only reason why they're able to beat these alien invaders is
because they're not a team.
Yeah, exactly. That was quite clever.
That's fun.
The way that he pulled it off was awesome. That's a great series. Stormwatch,
very good.
Yep, gotta go Stormwatch.
This was in their Wildstorm imprint, and it started out as a pretty generic 90s extreme team.
Yeah.
But Warren Ellis got on them, and he worked his magic and turned them into something exceptional.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely one of the best superhero comics that you can never read if you like straightforward superheroic stuff.
In all likelihood, it's going to get a mention many more times on our podcast.
Yeah.
Oh, the Teen Titans.
Teen Titans, baby.
For sure.
And I had to use the logo from the cartoon.
Yeah, for sure,
That's
man.
probably my favorite incarnation of the team.
Yeah, I think so, too.
Yeah.
It's the funnest incarnation of the team.
Totally, man. I like the Jeff Johns run. Well, at least the early part of his run.
Yeah.
That was pretty fun too. But yeah, the Teen Titans cartoon, you got Robin, Cyborg, Starfire,
Yep.
Raven, and Beast Boy. That's a
Yep.
winning combination.
Cyborg, one of the founding members of the Teen Titans.
Teen Titans.
Exactly.
Not the
Emphasis
Justice League.
on the Teen Titans.
Well, technically, he wasn't a founding member.
Oh, okay. That's fair.
In the comics, he wasn't technically. He was a member of the new Teen Titans back in the 80s. Because remember, the original Teen Titans came out in the 60s, and that was just Robin and Wonder Girl
and
Kid Flash.
Yeah.
All the sidekick characters.
Yeah. Oh, the Authority.
Yep. Got to go with the Authority, man.
Yeah.
One of the most influential comics of modern times.
Yep. This is another Warren Ellis joint, and he took a
Brian
team.
Hitch.
And Brian Hitch. They took characters out of the Wildstorm universe and they revolutionized the comic industry.
Yeah.
Truth be told.
Yep. It was one of the earliest books that came out from Wildstorm after DC bought them. The Crew.
Wow.
Remember the Crew, Albert?
I do. I don't know anything about them other than, are they all loosely associated with Black Panther?
Some of them are, yeah. So this was a comic that was written by Christopher Priest, who at the time had written a really long run on Black Panther. Probably the best Black Panther run that you'll ever read. I mean, obviously the Ta-Nehisi Coates stuff is excellent too, but
yeah,
Priest is, I think until Coates finishes his run, I still got to say Priest is the definitive Black Panther writer.
That's fair.
And The Crew was kind of a spin-off because he used some of the characters he came up with on there. I think the most notable character or recognizable character is probably War Machine.
Okay.
Yeah. And then you had some of the characters that he created, and I think there was somebody who was associated with Isaiah Bradley. Somebody who had some sort of super soldier serum. Yeah. But The Crew was a fun comic. Short-lived though. But fun. Canceled before its time because people don't recognize or respect greatness.
As is the case. That's why we have this podcast.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of not recognizing greatness, The Intimates.
Yep. This was another awesome comic. This one was created by Joe Casey, who was one of my absolute favorite writers. It was published by Wildstorm, an imprint of DC Comics. The concept of this comic was a superhero school. So there was. Do you remember this movie called Sky High?
Yeah.
Some Disney movie where it was the special school secluded from the public where
it's where superheroes go get trained.
Yeah, exactly. That's what The Intimates was all about.
Yeah. And from what I never read it, but it was one of those, it looked like it had a lot of teenage drama to it.
It was a crazy mix of teenage drama, super science action, and really experimental storytelling too, because I think Casey was willing to do things that weren't really common in comics. Even now, it's not like I ever see stuff like a news ticker on every page.
Yeah.
Or I mean, there's other things like he did a whole thing about a comic within the comic.
Yeah.
And that's something we've seen before, but like the way that he did it, it still was good, man. Like his storytelling was excellent. It's another comic that was short-lived, but 12 issues. If you can find them in a quarter bin anywhere,
snatch them up
because this is some great stuff.
The Ultimates.
Yep, had to have the Ultimates.
One of the top 25 Marvel comics of all time,
according to the experts.
Yeah.
We've talked about this on our podcast before. They're basically the Avengers. Yeah. Just a rebooted or a retelling of the story of the Avengers.
Exactly.
Big influence on the movies.
Uncanny X-Force.
Yep.
Well, I guess it's technically the X-Force that you were referring to, but The Uncanny X-Force is the one that you have love for, I imagine.
Yeah, I have love for the Uncanny X-Force by Rick Remender and all the different artists he worked with. That was an awesome run, man.
It's probably the best version of the X-Force.
Yeah, right? It's up there with the Peter Milligan.
Oh yeah,
X-Force.
You're right. I forgot about that.
Yeah.
My bad.
But even then, I would say that the Milligan Allred X-Force, which was on our list of top 25 Marvels, that one really should be called Ecstatics.
Yeah, I think that's definitely fair.
So as far as your typical superhero or your typical X-Force team would go, Uncanny X-Force was pretty awesome stuff. It was a team comprised of Wolverine, Deadpool, somehow took these popular characters, Archangel, Fantomex, and Psylocke. It's
all the edgy characters.
It's all the edgy characters, the anti-hero-ish kind of characters, and they're off doing proactive kind of missions. We kind of mocked the Outsiders.
We mocked it when it was the Outsiders, but here, because the execution was well done, we're not gonna mock it.
It really was well done. Like if you read the first story, it's about the team discovering that Apocalypse has been reincarnated as a child.
Yeah.
So their first mission is to execute Apocalypse because they don't want Apocalypse to,
grow up to become the threat to humanity that they know him to be.
Exactly. So the whole series explores this idea of violence and the consequences of violence. Because it's that age-old question, like, would you murder baby Hitler or something, like if you knew that you could go back in time and do that, and these guys had a chance to murder baby Apocalypse.
The Wildcats, okay, another one of your favorites.
Another favorite. The logo I'm using here is from Wildcats version 3.0.
Mm-hmm.
Another Joe Casey comic. Most of the art in the series was done by Dustin Nguyen.
Yeah.
Awesome dude. So this was an imprint of DC Comics. Version 3.0 of the team was about superheroes who tried to refashion the world through big business and corporations.
Yeah.
So like one of the main characters was the CEO of a company that discovered a limitless power source, and he was able to mass produce batteries that didn't run out of energy.
It was another edgy 90s comic that was rebooted in a substantially better way.
Yeah, because when they were first created in the 90s, it was originally an Image comic.
It was like a wannabe X-Men.
It was basically an X-Men comic.
Yeah.
And then better writers. Alan Moore wrote Wildcats for a while.
Yeah.
And then Joe Casey came on board. James Robinson was in there before Alan Moore too. And like, as great as Alan Moore is, I think Joe Casey's stuff on Wildcats is like the pinnacle of it.
Yeah.
He took the idea of the team and completely
gave them depth.
He transformed them, gave them depth, changed them from some wannabe X-Men team into something that
was uniquely its own.
Exactly. I have a feeling we'll talk about Wildcats some more sometime.
X Factor.
This was the 90s logo too.
Yeah. Peter David, he had a pretty massively long run on this, and it feels like he takes a break for a couple of years and then they put him back on some version of it.
Mm-hmm.
So it really does feel like that's the name that I associate with this book the most.
Yeah. I remember J.M.D. Mateus had a run on X Factor.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, X Factor was a Marvel comic. The government-sponsored mutant team.
Yeah. It was originally, as I remember it, it was the original 5 X-Men.
Yeah, that's right.
They became government-sponsored, but they told everyone that they weren't mutants.
Yeah.
They were superheroes They were just superheroes trying to deal with mutant problems.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty gullible public.
X-Men.
Yep.
You're using the Jonathan Hickman logo.
It's the brand new Hickman logo.
Yeah.
From the Dawn of X.
Yep.
The X-Men, it's pretty self-explanatory. You got to know who they are.
Ecstatics.
Yep.
We mentioned them earlier, but we've also talked about them at length
Yep.
over the course of this podcast.
One of the greatest Marvel comics of
all time, baby.
Yep. Check it out.
Young Justice.
Yep.
It was a follow-up. It felt like it was the next generation of Teen Titans,
Yeah,
basically.
it was. That's what it was.
But I thought it was a fun idea for a comic. You had Impulse, Robin, and Superboy,
Wonder
Connor
Girl.
Kent.
Yeah, Connor Kent.
Yeah, Wonder Girl. And from what I remember, it was a lighter comic. It wasn't anything that was dark or overly heavy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Peter David wrote that too.
He did.
Yeah.
He did.
And the logo that I picked for this was
The cartoon?
It's the recent logo actually
Yeah.
from the Bendis run.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Nice.
So I haven't read the Bendis stuff yet, but it's something
It's
I'm
Bendis,
looking forward to.
so
yeah.
there's a high likelihood it's going to be good.
Yep. And that about does it. That's all 44 teams that I came up with without using Wikipedia. Are you impressed by my knowledge?
I am very impressed. I'm impressed that you were able to fill 44. I was starting to reach for things like, is he going to put the Pantheon on here?
Ooh.
Or
that is some real deep cuts.
yeah.
It would have been hard to find a logo though.
Yeah, I don't. They did have a card though.
That's true. That's true. They had their own card. Well, thanks for listening. Hope you learned something.